I want to turn for a moment from the economy into the virus itself. And I want to take just a slight victory lap, because I remember on this very show, Senator, on March 10th, over a month ago, you suggested that there was very likely a link between the Wuhan Institute of Virology and this virus that just so coincidentally happened to occur within a couple miles of that institute. During that time, the mainstream media said this was crazy. This was a conspiracy theory. There was no evidence of it. Now we are getting multiple reports all saying that the virus came from the lab. My question here is not, my point is not just to take a victory lap. My question is, did the U.S. government know that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was conducting this sort of dangerous research? And if we did know, why didn't we stop it?
Absolutely, yes. The U.S. government knew. And in fact, when you and I brought this up on March 10th, a month ago, you're right, it was treated as tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory, nut jobbery. Well, it turns out there wasn't just one, there were two labs within miles of where this outbreak occurred that were studying coronaviruses from bats, and that there were internal State Department wires before this pandemic raising concerns about the security in those labs, and that an accidental a virus could escape and cause a global pandemic. But I'll tell you, it's worse than that. And let me give you some breaking news right now, which is the U.S. government was funding the Chinese research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars. And let me give you specifics that we just got today. Today, an inquiring of the National Institutes of Health, did any of your money go to the Wuhan Institute of Virology? The answer is yes. And here's what they told us in writing today. They said in fiscal year 2019, the funding for the Wuhan Institute for Virology was $76,000 and $301. $76,301. Now, what did it go to? And I'm repeating what NIH has told me in writing it went to. It was part of an overall $3.7 million funding program that went to 6 years in sites in China, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Myanmar. And here's what they were studying. These are NIH's words. The project included studying viral diversity in animal, parentheses, bats, reservoirs, surveying people that live in high-risk communities for evidence of bat coronavirus infection, and conducting laboratory experiments to analyze and predict which newly discovered viruses pose the greatest threats to human health. That's what the NIH funding was going to. And we followed up and said, okay, that's what you described as the project in all of these countries. How about at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? What specifically did U.S. taxpayer dollars go to at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Here's what the NIH said in writing, said the project supported the following activities at the Wuhan Institute of Virology: coronavirus screening and serology of non-human samples, viral pathogenesis, serological testing, host receptor binding, spike S protein sequencing, and in vitro and in vivo virus characterization. And it goes on to say that they had not supported the creation of recombinant viruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
I just want to make sure.
That's what your tax dollars and my tax dollars went to.
I want to make sure that I have got this right, because obviously, if there were State Department memos about this, a lot of people knew about this from the very beginning of this pandemic. And what you're saying right now, according to the NIH, is for the past month and a half, 2 months, even more, we've been told the Wuhan Institute of Virology had nothing to do with this coronavirus. It's just a coincidence. Get your tinfoil hat off. No way that happened. Not only do we now hear serious reports that it came from the lab, now we are learning, whoopsie daisy, I guess we forgot, actually U.S. taxpayer money was being used to fund that very viral research at the laboratory.
Well, and let me make clear, we don't have confirmed evidence that it did
Right.
come from the lab. We still don't know that.
Just reports.
What we know is that U.S. taxpayer dollars were going to the Chinese government to fund this research on bat coronaviruses, on how they could be infectious to humans, how they could be transmitted to humans, how they could be dangerous to humans, at the same time that the State Department was raising real concerns about the safety and security protocols at the lab that we're partially funding. And that, I got to say, that is nuts. And given that they were studying these bat coronaviruses, the Chinese government needs to answer the question right now. Were they studying the novel coronavirus, this virus, the virus that has killed over 140,000 people worldwide? Was that a virus that was studied at one or both of the Chinese government labs in Wuhan? They won't answer that question. They need to answer that question. And over 100,000 lives have been lost while they refuse to answer that question.
You know,